Hey guys, I see you're back for more. Probably because you want to, right? Not just because I told you you have to. Today we're going to be doing a lesson about pronouns and specifically about problems with pronouns. So you can tell by the word pronoun that it's got noun in it, but we're going to be talking about a specific type of noun, a specific type of, in this case, person, usually a person. And as always, this is adapted from a book called Everything You Need to Ace English Language Arts in One Big Fat Book, which you can find in a lot of places, but this is just some basic Englishy stuff that you should know anyway. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk about what a pronoun is, because some of you, or all of you at this point, should be familiar because we've talked about it in class with what nouns are. Nouns are things, person, places, or things. And we've talked about noun phrases and how, sometimes in order to express what that person, place, or thing is, you need an actual kind of string of words to express it. And today we're going to be talking about a specific type of noun, which is a pronoun. So a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. So instead of naming a person or naming a place or naming a thing, you use a word in its place. It's pretty straightforward. You can see in this example, we've got SpongeBob cried giant tears, and you can replace he for SpongeBob, and the sentence still makes sense, right? So he is our pronoun in this case. Another example, SpongeBob and Patrick had a fight. In this case, our noun phrase is SpongeBob and Patrick, and we can replace that with the pronoun they. They had a fight. And in this final example, we can say Gary the snail climbed Patrick's head. And in this case, the noun phrase is Gary the snail. Since Gary the snail isn't technically a person, but he's a thing, we can say it climbed Patrick's head. And that's, an acceptable pronoun for us. So we use these all the time and we don't think about it, right? We're constantly using pronouns, and they're just a special type of noun. The problem is that sometimes we have problems with how we use them. So problem number one with how we use pronouns is we are too vague about what the pronoun is, what the pronoun stands for when we use it. So in other words, a vague pronoun is when readers can't know what the pronoun is replacing. We read the pronoun and it could be one thing, it could be another thing, we're just not sure. So if we look at this sentence, Mr. Lassard's brother thought he was ridiculous for writing about SpongeBob. He is the pronoun there. The problem is that we don't know who he talks about in this sentence. And so two people can read the sentence and come away with two completely different ideas about what the sentence means. They might think that Mr. Lassard's brother thought that Mr. Lassard was ridiculous for writing about SpongeBob. Or somebody else might read it and think that Mr. Lassard's brother thought that he himself, Mr. Lassard's brother, was ridiculous for writing about SpongeBob. We just don't know because the pronoun is too vague. And so there are times that we use pronouns when in fact the pronoun is inappropriate, and you just have to take it out and replace it with something more specific or completely rewrite the sentence. So let's look at a couple more examples. We've got the sentence, Patrick wanted the pet snail because it was cool. And it is the pronoun, right? The pet snail, we can assume is the pronoun, but we don't know. In fact, there are two possibilities here. The possibility number one is that Patrick wanted the pet snail because having a pet snail was cool, or Patrick wanted the pet snail because the snail itself was cool. Again, we've got two people read this sentence and possibly come away with two different understandings of the sentence. And we don't know which way is correct, and so you can't make enough sense of the sentence to claim anything about it. The better way to do it is to either rewrite the sentence the way that the bullet points are below, Patrick wanted the pet snail because having a pet snail was cool, or Patrick wanted the pet snail because the snail itself was cool. But both of those are kind of awkward phrasing, so we could take this as an opportunity to write a better sentence still without a pronoun. So for the first possibility, we could write Patrick longed to enter the club of cool people with pet snails, which goes right along with that first interpretation. If we mean that people with snails are cool and having snails are cool, then this sentence is actually a much more interesting sentence without the pronoun. The second way we could rewrite it is, if only I had a pet snail as cool as Gary, Patrick thought, then we know that the it is referring back to Gary, and this is a much more interesting way to write the sentence than with that vague pronoun that leaves us kind of wondering what it's all about. So when we have a vague pronoun, our best bet is to rewrite the sentence, at least so that the vague pronoun is specific, at most so that the whole sentence is simply more interesting and gets that specificity across. The second problem that I'd like to cover with pronouns is the idea of compound pronouns when we are dealing with more than one thing. So in this case, especially, when we make ourselves and at least one other person the subject or the object of the sentence. In other words, when we ourselves and another person, or sometimes a place or thing, are the noun of the sentence, then we can get confused about which pronoun we use. So let's look at an example. If we have the sentence, "We watched SpongeBob," well, somebody might legitimately ask, well, who is we? Right? Like, I don't remember watching SpongeBob with you. So who is this we you're talking about? And so in response, the person saying the sentence might say, "My brother and me watched SpongeBob." And it sounds technically right. We remember learning that when we're including another person and ourself, that other person comes first and then yourself comes second. That was a rule that we learned a long time ago. But this is actually a problematic compound pronoun. The compound pronoun is my brother and me. It's used incorrectly, because if we take my brother and out and we just read that sentence, then that sentence sounds really, really goofy, right? Me watched SpongeBob? No, we wouldn't say that. Maybe if we were just learning to speak, but we know that that's not correct. And so the actual way to fix the "we watch SpongeBob" problem, if we don't know who "we" is to say, "My brother and I watched SpongeBob," because it's proper to say, if we take "my brother and" out, it's proper to say, "I watched SpongeBob." Let's look at one more example. So if we have the sentence, "My mom made snacks," should say snacks, sorry. "My mom made snacks for us." And somebody said, well, who's us? I don't know who us is. I don't remember mom making snacks for us. Then somebody might rightly rephrase the sentence to say, "Mom made snacks for my brother and I," right? Again, sounds like we did that correctly. We remember that my brother comes first because I come second in proper English. The problem is that this doesn't work either, because if we take "my brother and" out again, then the sentence reads like this: "My mom made snacks for I." And that's not something that we would say, right? We want it, we don't want to sound like, a 2-year-old who's still learning to speak. And so if we do have this compound pronoun, then we need to clarify. Then we clarify it more properly like this: "Mom made snacks for my brother and me." Because if we take "my brother and" out of that sentence, then we're left with the sentence, "Mom made snacks for me," which sounds right. So this is a lot of information. And hopefully you've got some decent notes to use off of this. And now we're going to see how you do.